Hey everyone, it's Patty here, and today I want to kind of drop in because it's not only Halloween season, but there's a really cool celebration that's happening in a couple of weeks or a couple of days after Halloween, and that is Day of the Dead. Now, I don't know about you, but this was one of really my favorite projects or holidays to celebrate. I didn't do a lot of Halloween projects in the classroom, but we did do a lot of Day of the Dead projects. And it really wasn't until I think I was teaching about 4 or 5 years before I even introduced a Day of the Dead lesson. I hadn't really heard about it. I'm Canadian. This is not a holiday that we have a lot of friends celebrating, but in Southern California, it's a big deal. So today what I want to do is just to kind of show you the projects that I've done. Now, the sugar skulls are really like the big ones, and I'm going to show you kind of how a really simple way to draw the sugar skull and then a couple of variations on how to do the projects. But see this little guy back here? I want to show you how to draw a skeleton, because even if you don't celebrate the Day of the Dead or you can't, you can use this project to kind of help kids learn how to draw the human body. There's really no better way to learn how to draw proportions than to kind of understand the bones beneath our skin. So you can always use this lesson for just general purpose drawing as well. So I'll just let a few people get started or joining me. And so just go ahead and say hi if you're out there, where you're from, or what grades you teach, because if I know what grades you teach, then I can kind of help you identify maybe the most appropriate technique for doing a sugar skull lesson or a Day of the Dead lesson, because you know some of the lessons are harder than others and some are a lot easier than others, and you can probably tell which ones you want to do with your kindergartners and which ones you want to do with older students, but I can help you guide you to that as well. So I have a couple of handouts. Let me see if I can find them. So one handout that I created for you, and I'm going to be linking to this handout at the end of when I go off Facebook Live, but it's basically a sugar skull pattern guide. So this is really helpful because sugar skulls, they have tons of different decorations and flowers and different patterns, and sometimes kids just need a little bit of a boost. So there is this one, and then I print them back to back. I also have this really cool template or a guide that can show you really simply how to draw a sugar skull. So I'll link to this after I'm done talking, and then you can download this and use it in your classroom. Now, I also have a kind of a handout that's really helpful. Now, this is in a new product that I have in the shop. It's really inexpensive, but it's how to draw a skeleton, but also how to do this particular project right here. I've had this project, it's based on a book, and I'll show you the book. It's based on this book, and the author is Bob Barner, and it's probably one of the better books, I think, about the Day of the Dead, because some books that I've found over the years, they didn't really quite have a lot of artistic elements to it. You know, you might have a really good book suggestion, but I really liked this one, and I'll show you inside. So this particular book is the one that I've kind of used for years, really, but you can see that it's very kind of child-friendly in terms of the art. You don't want to get anything too scary. And I think the image I used, yeah, right about back here. And you know, when you introduce a guitar-playing skeleton to your kids, the engagement level goes way, way, way up. So this is why I kind of chose this book, because the kids really could relate. And you can see how there's like a skeleton here with all the beautiful flowers, and that's really how you can really embellish the lesson. So I have a lesson plan. I never used to have a lesson plan. I used to have the kind of like a free post, which I'll link to, the free post, but also now you can download a lesson plan that includes this little guide. And on one side, it's the human skeleton, but I also have a place where children can identify the body parts if that's important to you, so it's a great science tie-in. And then on the other side, you have all of the different bones. I did it as simply as humanly possible, because these are kids that are 9 and 10 years old, and if you're going to do the lesson the way I've done it, you're actually tearing paper. So the kids just want to get the basic shapes and the proportions. So they don't really have to draw it out with pencil and be scientific about it. They can really have a whole lot of fun. So I'm going to show you, first of all, how to do that sugar skull. So basically, once you learn how to draw the contour line of the sugar skull, everything else falls completely into place. It's super easy. But you know, sometimes it's hard for kids to draw it big, number one, because oftentimes we have this really big piece of paper and they kind of get it all wonky, which is fine because it's art. However, if you want to have a more kind of a little bit a good size head so they can actually decorate inside it, like, which is, you know, the part of the lesson that the kids really enjoy, then this really helps. So I have this here and I'm going to put it right over here. And this is often what I would do if I was teaching in the classroom. I would often have a handout and then I would say, okay kids, this is what we're going to do. And this is the type of a lesson that you wouldn't necessarily have to do a guided drawing, because you can just show the kids what to do and then they can go back to their seats or actually get started on the project themselves. So this is what I do. I always draw the paper for the kids. Now, not the exact size, it's going to be a little bit larger. You have to remember there's some kids going to be sitting way in the back of the room, and so you want to make it pretty big. And then I kind of say, okay, just pretend your paper is divided in half. And then again, vertically. And we're going to use that quadrant to actually draw the sugar skull and kind of keep the different parts of the skull in the different sections. So you can see here, that I'm going to come really close, that I have these little dots on the handout. And that's because this is where we're going to start the drawing and kind of where we're going to end it. So I'm going to continue with those dots when I make my large scale. So kind of like this. And, you know, right about there. That's pretty good. Now I can put away the red pen. Okay, so now to draw the top part of the skull, all you have to do is remember that the skull is not going to go any farther than this point, but it's going to start here. And the skull is not a triangle. So some kids, they might go like this, you know, draw like that. Like, nuh-uh. If you're unsure of your grade level, like maybe second or third graders, you might have to do the finger thing. Now, if you don't know the finger test, this is what I like to do. When children are learning how to draw, oftentimes if they draw with their finger, their eyes will remember the pattern. And so if you say, okay, we're not going to be doing this, we're actually going to draw a nice curved line. So can you draw a curved line on your paper? I hope you can hear that because my voice is away from you. And so that's all you have to do. And then the kids will go, oh, yeah, I can see that. So you want to start here, or here maybe, and kind of go in a bit. And some kids might do this. And if they do, don't worry about it. You know, just keep going. You can also say, well, do you like that line or don't you like that line? And if you don't like the line, you know what you can tell them to do? Say, just draw a line that you like. And this can be turned into a pattern. If they're using an oil pastel or a marker, obviously they can't erase it, but they might be able to turn their paper over after they're finished. So then the next part is really just to make the chin part. And I have the dot there so that they know how far they have to go down. Sometimes if you don't have the dot or the guide, then the children aren't sure how far to go down on the paper. And this just makes it a lot easier. So then you go down, scoot around, and just like that. Now, this looks more like a horse, but it's okay. That's just because the paper's a little bit on the long side. Sometimes I draw these things for the kids, and I don't try to make it perfect. And I don't want you to try to make it perfect either. If you can have fun with your drawing, you can be sure that the kids are going to have a much more relaxed approach to their drawing. So what I would like to do then is say, okay, well, you know what? The jaw's a little long. Let's make the mouth open. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, here's the trick. if you're working with kindergarten, first grade, or second grade, drawing the actual mouth might be a little bit hard. Kindergarten, first grade for sure. This is an easy way to get around it. Just go like this. Draw a straight line here, and a straight line here, one in the middle, and then you get the idea. This is the easiest way possible to draw teeth. But you know, we can improve on that. So I'm just going to erase this. Does anyone else use their fingers to erase the whiteboard? Or is it just me? I don't know why I do that. I do have a wiper here. Okay. So now, put that down. Okay. I like just to go a line across and then down. So it's like a big, kind of a rounded rectangle. The reason why I like to make it really big and kind of awkward looking is because the teeth are really fun to draw. And so we'll draw the teeth in just a few minutes. So hi, Amy. So now what I want to do is draw the big cavities for the eyes. And kids know exactly where this goes, so you don't have to really do any explanation. In fact, you can show them how to draw the eyes and then how to draw the nose. And guess what? You're kind of done. So I'm just going to draw a big hole for the eye here and a triangle. And one trick I have, or one tip, is when you're doing the triangle, try not to make it like a pumpkin triangle. Try to make the corners a little bit rounded. I think that helps a little bit. So now you can really get to the fun stuff. This is a handout that, like I said at the very beginning, I'll include that for you in the link that I'm going to give to you after I go off live. Hi, Denise. And the reason why I like it so much is because even though you might be able to get a lot of books and drawing resources, and I'm going to show you a few, there's nothing like having a handout on a table. So if you just photocopy this and just give it to the kids, what I used to do in the classroom, if there was a table of 5 or 6 kids, I would just throw 2 or 3 handouts on the table. So you don't have to waste a lot of paper. Some kids won't use it at all. Some kids will just glance at it, and then other kids will really study it. But here's the thing, it just provides a little safety for them. So if they kind of run out of ideas, and they can go back to it. So what I like to do is to draw some type of line around the eye. Now it could be just a straight line, or it could be like a flower. Just like this. The older the kids get, the more detailed I like them to be, because that way you can really kind of you can extend the lesson, number one, and it looks a lot more detailed and it's more practice. So you could draw a little echo line inside. And you know, right about now kids start running out of ideas, but you can say, okay, you want to build on what you've already created. And so maybe for this eye, we'll do some type of kind of like abstract petals. So we can do little lines like this, and maybe over here. And I like to draw the base lines first, and then the little petals. If children have a hard time with that, another step, or an intermediary step, is to make a little dot above the little line, and that is where the point of the flower goes. So it's like this. You draw the straight line. Can you guys see that? Yeah. Maybe you can't see that. I'll put it right here. You draw the straight line and the dot, and then the children connect the dot with the line. So, yeah. Okay, so I'll just continue on here, and just goes like that. And this is where they can look at the sheet and go, okay, well, this is interesting. I don't have to do the flowers all the way around. Maybe at the very bottom, I'll just do the circles. So you can see how you can just keep on adding and adding. I like to do some really big thing in the forehead, because this is where you can kind of talk about symmetry, especially for the older kids. I wouldn't get into that with, kindergarten and first graders, but symmetry is a big thing. So you can, pick any one of these designs, and, maybe I'll pick this, like a flower, that is the same on both sides. And one thing about sugar skulls, the more patterns, the better. And also, it gives the children lots of areas in which to color. So you can kind of finish that as much as you want to. The nose is kind of the same. Kids have a lot of fun adding the nostrils. That's really, really makes them laugh. Now for the teeth, if you have older kids, I really like drawing the actual teeth. So here's a fun way to do it. Just go like this. It's almost like a scalloped line, and then draw the teeth, the vertical teeth, and this would be kind of more straight across. And then just repeat it. Just like that. Oops, I kind of messed up there. Willie has crooked teeth now. So that is pretty much how you would draw a sugar skull. Now I want to give you a couple of options depending on the grade level that you teach. So I think, if I remember correctly, because it's been a couple of years since I've done this, this is black sulfite paper. So just your regular drawing paper. And what the kids did, and this was second grade, I'm pretty sure it was second grade, or I actually think it could be done with first or second grade. What I did, use regular tempera paint. Here is the important trick to remember. If you're painting tempera paint, like Crayola liquid tempera paint, on black paper, you have to use white paint as like a base, or you can mix it with your colors. So I used the thickest white paint, like no water added. Now, when I was in the classroom, I added a lot of water to my, well not a lot, but a little bit of water to my Crayola paint to make it go farther, because you don't really need this pudding-like texture to paint. But with the white you do, especially on the black paper. Then the kids basically drew a really simple sugar skull, just like I showed you, just the outline and the cavities. And then what they did next was use the white paintbrush and painted with that really thick Crayola paint their skull. Also 3 lines. Can you see how simple that is? 3 little lines for the neck and then the shoulder, if they had enough room. A lot of kids didn't have room. Then they used colors that were pre-mixed, or you could have like a palette of blue and green and yellow and orange and purple. And then they would use white to mix in with the colors, because can you see how pastel-y the colors are? If I just use plain red, the red would look kind of too dark and it wouldn't pop. So that is a trick. Mix the colors with white when you're using black paper and it really pops. I think as a final touch, and this is where, you know, you love glitter or you don't. I love glitter. I'm not going to apologize. Oh, we added a little bit of glitter, like just around the sugar skull eyes, and maybe a little bit on like a necklace or something, just a little bit. So this is a lesson you can do for the kindergarten, first and second. This lesson gets a little bit more detailed, maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, definitely 5th grade for sure. It's using white regular paper. Now you don't have to use a big size, 9 by 12 is fine. And you're going to draw the sugar skull pretty much the same way that I drew it on the whiteboard, just using a Sharpie and white paper. That's all you need, and that handout, because that handout will really go a long way. Now I'm going to just give you a little close up. Can you see how it's just Sharpie and it's just the white paper, but we used just regular Crayola broad tip markers to color in all the different designs. It really helps if the kids don't color in the sugar skull itself, if they leave that white, because it takes a long time to color. But there's always going to be some kids who want to color it, and that's fine. If they color it black, which some of them might, just make sure to give them a different colored background paper so the colors will really pop. Then, you guys know what this is, right? If you've been visiting Deep Space Sparkle for any amount of time, you know that I kind of dig painted paper, and you can create little flowers. And these are random flowers. There's no templates. Kids can draw on the back of the painted paper and make little marigolds and leaves and all of those things, and they just decorate as much as they want. As far as timing, it takes about 40 minutes for you to explain what a sugar skull is, the traditions behind a sugar skull, and the start of the drawing. By the end of 40 minutes, what kids will achieve, especially with this, is they'll have the drawing done, they'll have most of the designs in black, so the Sharpie will be done. And some kids will have started to color, if not halfway through. Then the next 40-minute class, you will pick up where you left off. You can finish coloring, and then you cut it out, put it on the black paper or whatever color you choose, and then the rest of the class is spent adding the details. There'll be about 10-15% of the class who will need a little bit more time adding more details, or else they'll only have 1 or 2 flowers, because some kids, they take a long time, and that's fine. So those are, oh wait, no. This is kind of like a hybrid of the 2 lessons that I just showed you. This would be perfect for that sandwich, the grades, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th grades, because basically it's the same lesson as what I did with the kinders, except we did it with oil pastel, not Sharpie, and not paint, on white paper, the sugar skull. They colored in with oil pastel, super fast, less messy for the teacher. When you don't have to get out a lot of paint, it's a lot easier to prep. And then all you have to do is cut out the sugar skull, put it on the black paper, and then do the little painted flowers or marigolds, you know, on another day. And we kind of went to town with the glitter. We did a lot of glitter, but that's that. So now I want to show you how to, there goes my sugar skull. Now I want to show you how to draw the skeleton, because I really think the skeleton is a great project for the older kids. Now you might think that this lesson, I'm going to bring it on over, you might think this lesson is perfect for younger kids, but the truth is it's a little bit more skill-based, and children will have a harder time with the kind of tearing of the paper. Now it doesn't mean you have to tear. You can actually draw on white paper all of the different bones with a pencil and carefully cut out the bones, but this is a really good manual dexterity, and really helps children process how much pressure to apply, how paper actually tears. There's a right way, there's a wrong way, and I go into detail in the lesson plan, so I won't go into detail now. But the whole idea with this is to tear out enough of the little white bones so that you can assemble it on a colored piece of paper, okay? But the first thing you need to do, and this is something that's really helpful, is to teach children how to draw the skeleton before they start attempting to tear it out. And the handouts really help, but I just want to show you. So I'm just going to erase this. Okay. So y'all with me? Who has done a sugar skull before? Oh, thank you, Kim. You know, I love doing the sugar skulls. It's like one of the most creative projects that you could really do this time of year. They look amazing on like a bulletin board display. You know, they have such deep cultural traditions. Here's the thing. If you're not allowed to do Day of the Dead, I kind of get it. I think this is like a really good topic if you can't do culturally based lessons. Like, how do you incorporate all of these different lessons into your curriculum if you're not allowed to use them? Is it a religious holiday? Do you have kids who can't partake? My story is that whenever I did like a Halloween or even like a harvest pumpkin, anything to do with a pumpkin, it could just be a pumpkin. I had kids in my class who just could not draw a pumpkin. They weren't allowed to for whatever religious beliefs they had about the pumpkin. It was just too strongly associated to Halloween for that family. So this is what our school decided. And you know, schools change and depending on the principal, but if there was a couple of kids, you know, in random classes, we arranged with the librarian that they would do an alternative, you know, simple art project in the library separate from their class. And this really seemed to work out. For the kids, they were certainly fine with it. They were proud of their own religion, that they had beliefs and they wanted to stand up for their beliefs, and that is awesome. But you really do need to make sure that you have some type of alternative lesson for them, because you don't want to leave those kids out. But you also don't want to hold up 99.9% of the other kids who really do want to do this lesson and learn about other cultures. So there's always a solution. You just have to go find it. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to draw that skeleton. It really, now I'm not going to get technical. So if there's any technical people out there, like the ribs, you know, you have to have them perfect, and how many spinal, you know, notches in your spinal column. not me. This is not doing that right now. I just want to give you a general overview of how I would teach a skeleton. Okay, so having said that, and now that I'm safe, so the first thing you want to do, map out your paper. So I'm going to draw it a little bit bigger. I'm just making sure you can all see that. And I think that'll be good. I want to draw it vertically. When you're drawing on the whiteboard, there's always a chance you're going to go beyond your paper. Just go beyond your paper, because that'll be a learning tool for the kids, because they'll be able to see what you've done. Like, I'm almost guaranteed to go over the paper because I have a tendency to draw big. I'll move on. So you want to draw your head in the top corner, or the top part of the paper, as far up as you can get, because there's a lot of room down here. So you draw basically a curved semicircle. Then you go in a bit and an upside down letter U, and that's all you have to do. Then you want to draw the neck bones, and you can do two. Let's do it this way. That's better. Okay, and then before you start drawing the arms, it's really helpful to get the foundation, the core, the spinal column. And the way this drawing is, I really like it because it kind of goes down, and then it has these little, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name. Someone help me out. But the little discs, the vertebrae. And then you can go back and then do the shoulder. So once you have the spinal column in place, it's a lot easier to kind of frame your drawing. It's like a letter T. So then you have your shoulder. I don't know if you can see what I did here, but I kind of went like this. And what you want, or here, like this. What you want to do is always have kids close that up. So you want to close the loop. It's really easy just to do a line. I do it all the time, and you can correct yourself as you do it. You want to make a shape, just so the kids can see that. Now I'm going to make the upper arms, which are really just like dog bones. And then you can make them go out a little bit. And then this part is not as, curvy. Then you do the side, so a little bump and a little notch there. And then you really want to kind of show, well, kids, the way your bone, like, feel your bones. And you can feel like your elbow hinges. So you can say your elbow hinges because it's kind of a ball there. And it just fits in. It fits right into that little socket. Then you can make the hip bones. And we'll go back and add the details. But the hip bones, they kind of look like a butterfly. So you want to make those pretty big. Start in the middle. And this is a symmetrical shape. So you go out and then in like that. And this is probably a little bit too much, so I'm just going to correct it. Just like that. And then they have the hollow hip sockets. And now we're getting pretty good. So right here, this is not exact. It kind of should go like this a bit. Oh well, we'll just move on. Okay, and then you want to do the very same thing with the legs. Now, one thing that kids are going to find is that they might have gotten all the way down to the below halfway point, and they're going to run out of space. Just tell them to bend their legs. That's what they're for. So, hi, Dusty. Dusty says, I have to go really close to the camera because I can't see anymore. My eyes all of a sudden just stopped working, so I need new glasses. So Dusty says, I love your printable tutorial. Thank you. I'm going to include another link to that so that you can have it. Okay, so you want to do your bone. It's the same way. Are you seeing this guy? Are you seeing him? He's kind of funny looking. I'm going to keep moving on. This is what you need to do with your kids. Just don't be afraid of being a horrible artist up there. You don't have to make it perfect. If you're a classroom teacher and you want to make it scientific and really accurate, good for you. You might just want to practice a few times. I didn't practice. So then you want to do the bottom bone. And the bottom bone is almost as long as the thigh bone, a little bit shorter. And then the feet are really cool. I love the feet because they're basically just a wobbly ball. And then you make a line, and it's kind of like a triangle. And then you just put that at the very bottom. The wobbly ball, and then the sideways triangle. Now you can go back and you can do the ribs. And the ribs are separate. Or actually, if you're going to do this as a precursor to the paper, make the ribs all one piece. And that way the kids will remember, let's make them all one piece. And it's easier for them to tear it. So just pretend that it's one continuous line. And then the hands, when you're doing this project, if you choose to do that with the paper tearing, almost don't bother getting into fingers and thumbs. You just want to tear like some type of roundish shape because it will get really tedious for the kids and they're just too young and a little bit too frustrating. And Billy, I've tried it, so just don't do it. But for drawing, you want to just create the palm area and then the fingers. And this guy doesn't have much room. So that's okay, he's not going to get fingers. And the eyes, the nose, and then I'm just going to make a big mouth. That's how you draw a skeleton. Now, it could be better, a lot better, but you know, you kind of get the idea, right? And this handout is really good. Again, this is in that the lesson plan that I have in my shop, but you can kind of see it here too, that I have all of the different shapes, really general shapes. And so this really helps the kids. Like I said, the fingers, they're going to throw some kids off, but it's nice to have it there so they know what they're working towards. So do you guys have any questions on these types of projects? Because if you do, I can answer them now. And then I just want to show you a couple of the books that I use in the art room and who they're by so you can look them up on Amazon. I know that one thing I like to do a lot is I like to have as many drawing tools for kids as possible because it's super hard to kind of look at a drawing and kind of, especially one that has a lot of detail. And these coloring books are just fabulous. I mean, they're such a great resource to have. I mean, they're very detailed, but when I did a Sugar Skull lesson with my older kids, the 6th graders, we used these books, and I just kind of photocopied them and you know, made sure that I kept the copyright there, so, you know, but kids got lots of ideas, and they would leaf through these books and kind of mix and match, and it's really good because I find that my capacity for, you know, finding all of these different shapes and ideas for kids, it only goes so far. And when you have like 6 classes, you can't be expected to know all this. So use the resources that you have available. Now, the free handout is good because, you know, I got a lot of the designs from this book, but this book is fantastic. Lots of different ideas. If you're really into Day of the Dead, this one is called Creative Haven. They do a lot of coloring books and kind of resource guides. And this is the Day of the Dead coloring book. And if you're kind of wanting to do more than just sugar skulls, there's lots of like altars and the calaveras and the Katrina dolls and so many different ways that you can celebrate. And this is a really detailed book, so you kind of have to kind of extract ideas, but a really good one. So now I have, this one is Dios de los Muertos, and it's by Roseanne Greenfield Thong, and pictures by Carle Ballesteros. I didn't say that right, I know. The kids would definitely correct me. But this is a beautiful book. It's one of the kind of the more beautiful Day of the Dead books that are suitable for kids. Sometimes the stories get really long and too drawn out to read in art class, but this was a really good one. And it kind of shares all of the kind of the history and the culture about a family celebrating Day of the Dead. And you can see the papal Mikado up there, and just beautifully, simply illustrated. So this would be, you know, really great for younger kids. You know, here's another idea. Can you see these little elements right here? they make wonderful little art ideas for you to do in your classroom. So if you didn't want to do a sugar skull, if you didn't want to do a skeleton, you could isolate this little individual picture right here and do a little pot of these really cute flowers. Now, wouldn't that be a great idea? Can you just see that? And that is one way to celebrate, you know, the Day of the Dead, or just Mexican, Hispanic culture. So there's lots of ideas in picture books. You know, I use picture books a lot, so I'm always looking for good ideas. So there you have it, people. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm really glad that you guys attended, and I'm going to put the link to the free handouts right in the post, but I'm also going to link to the post in the shop, or the product in the shop, just in case you want to do this, the paper lesson. Now, if you're pretty creative and you don't need all of the handouts, and you don't need the standards and all of that stuff, there's a free post on my blog, and so I'll probably post that too. I'll just get busy posting links for you guys. So thank you so much for, you know, hanging out with me. I'm going to try to do this most every Thursday. It looks like a lot of Thursdays in November. I kind of have a lot more time now. It feels like I have, you know, more time just to kind of hang out with you guys. So I'm happy to do it. So if you like it, you know, come back on the next Thursday at 3, and that's Los Angeles time, obviously, and kind of hang out. And you can even write and email me and ask me what you'd like to learn or draw about. So I'll listen, okay? So have a great day, everyone.